Let me ask you something. Have you worked on your English yet today? Have you studied a lot? Have you ever wanted to improve your pronunciation? Work, worked. Study, studied. Want, wanted. Let's dive in.
Welcome to another Happy English podcast coming to you from New York City. And here's your English teacher, Michael.
All right, thank you, John, and thanks, everyone. It's Michael here from Happy English, and I help people speak English better. And this is Happy English Podcast, episode 847, How to Pronounce Past Verbs ED. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the Happy English Podcast. Let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why we say wanted with an ED sound in an extra syllable at the end, and we pronounce studied with a D sound at the end, but worked has like a T sound at the end? Well, today we're going to clear up that mystery. I'm talking about the pronunciation of ED in past tense verbs. Believe it or not, there are 3 different ways to pronounce the ED ending. And once you know the rules, it actually makes a lot of sense. And to do this, we need to divide the verbs into 3 groups. In the first group of verbs, the ED ending has just a T sound, like worked. I worked all day. This happens when a verb, like work, ends in a voiceless sound. That's a sound where your vocal cords don't vibrate. These are sounds like P, K, S, F, sh, or ch. Here are some examples. Laugh becomes laughed. Watch becomes watched. Drop becomes dropped. And pick becomes picked. So there's no extra syllable here, just a strong T sound at the end. Now, in the next group of verbs, the ED ending has a soft D sound, like played. The dog played with the ball. This happens when the verb ends in a voiced sound. That's when your vocal cords do vibrate. You pronounce ED as a D. These are sounds like B, G, V, L, M, N, R, Z, or vowel sounds. Here are some verbs that fit this group. Call becomes called. Play becomes played. Clean becomes cleaned. Beg becomes begged. And study becomes studied. I know that last one is a bit tricky because of the Y at the end, but the sound is voiced, so it's just D. No extra syllable. Okay, the third and final group is easy to remember. If a verb ends in the sounds T or D, like in want or need, that's when you have to add an extra syllable. So, want becomes wanted. Need becomes needed. Invite becomes invited. Decide becomes decided. This is the only set of verbs where there is an extra syllable. You can hear the extra beat at the end. Want, wanted. Need, needed. The verbs in the other two groups don't have an extra syllable. So, how can you remember all of this? Well, here's my trick. First, ask yourself, does the verb end in a T or a D sound? If yes, use the id with an extra syllable. Wanted, needed. If the verb doesn't end in a T or a D sound, listen to the last sound of the verb. If it's voiceless, like P, K, F, use T. Laughed, watched. If it's voiced, like B, G, vowels, M, N, use the D sound. Played, studied. And don't look at the spelling. Instead, focus on the sound at the end. Okay, 3 simple rules, 1 tricky verb ending. But once you know the sound rules, English pronunciation gets a lot easier. And remember, pronunciation is half listening and half doing. So why not listen to this podcast again to get these sounds of English in your head? And if you need any particular English pronunciation help, you can always ask my AI tutor. It's a great way to practice your English, get answers to your English learning questions, and more 24/7. And it's all free. There's a link in the description where you are listening to this podcast right now. So check it out. And if you like it, leave me a thumbs up there. And if you really want to get more practice using your English, well, you should join my Podcast Learners Study Group. There, you can make new international friends. Join us for live group lessons every week where we practice these podcast lessons together. Plus, you get access to the PDF transcript and audio download for every Happy English podcast in the past and in the future. And on top of that, each episode has exercises where you can practice this English point with speaking and writing checked by me. To learn more, just visit myhappyenglish.com and choose podcast lesson 847. Remember, learning another language is not easy, but it's not impossible. And I'm here to help you on your journey.
This podcast was brought to you by Happy English. Please visit myhappyenglish.com. Show your support for Happy English by leaving us a review. Get English, get happy, Happy English.